Hello everyone, my name is John Mertens. I'm running for U.S. Senate in Connecticut in 2010 as an independent. I want you to get to know me. I'm producing a monthly TV show that's going to run for the next 12 months on this channel. Most shows, I will be a 30-minute format where we look at one issue in particular in depth with experts. But since this is the first early part of the year, I thought I'd tell you about myself, and hopefully you'll get to know me and you'll see every show. I was born outside of Chicago in 1962. My parents moved to a farm in Northern California shortly thereafter, where I grew up. It was out in the middle of nowhere, about 10 miles from the nearest post office. And I learned how to work. I learned how to farm. My parents had a very hard time of it, and in fact they both had to take jobs during that decade to maintain the farm. They were Depression-era children, and as they used to say, they went to the school of hard knocks. So I learned a good work ethic from them. In 1972, they joined the Peace Corps, and we moved to Africa for 2 years in Zaire. I was 9, from 9 to 11. And that changed my life. I experienced discrimination and hatred because of my skin color. Something I had never witnessed before. Where I grew up was, there were very few people of color where I grew up. And I learned a lot about the world. It was also a fascist state. I learned what it was like to live in a country where you had no freedom, and had all kinds of interesting experiences, including being harassed by military with M16s who would set up roadblocks and pull us over and extort bribes from us under threats of going to jail, things like that. And I developed a real love for the freedoms and the system of government that we have in the United States. I also developed a love for the people of the world. I also had a lot of really wonderful experiences while we were there. And in 1974, we moved back to the farm, where, believe it or not, this sounds hard to believe even when I hear it. When I was 12 years old, I became the foreman of our harvest crew. We used to work 70 hours a week in very hot weather. And I learned that I didn't want to be a farmer. So with the encouragement of my parents, I was the first generation of our family to go to college. I went to the local university. I got a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. And while I was in college, I realized that I had a talent for teaching. I saw what my professors were doing, and I thought, I want to do that. How do I do that? And I learned that to do it, you have to get a PhD. So I was fortunate to go to Stanford University and get a master's and PhD in mechanical engineering. And I was also fortunate enough to get a job as a professor teaching engineering at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. I moved my family here in 1990, and I've lived in Hartford and West Hartford ever since. I've raised 4 children. 2 are now in college, and 2 are in high school in West Hartford. It's a wonderful community. I feel very blessed. And at Trinity College, I teach engineering. I also teach some public policy and environmental science courses. So that enabled me to teach about some things I've been very passionate about my whole life. I've been very passionate about public policy and politics. And that's why I'm running for U.S. Senate. I've been very disappointed my entire life at the Republicans and Democrats that we've sent to Washington in the hopes that they would solve our long-term problems. And unfortunately, for my entire life, I've watched as these long-term problems have just gotten worse. And not only are they getting worse, but our elected officials aren't even talking about the most serious of them. And year after year, I've watched this, and I finally decided enough is enough. We have to do something about it. So I'm part of a movement to start a third party in Connecticut, the Independent Party, where we want to run candidates in every office in 2010. I'm running for U.S. Senate, and the goal is to bring real problem solving to government. Another major concern I have is not only have these large problems been getting worse, but it seems like our ability to even talk about them and talk about the solutions has been getting worse. We see these talk show hosts that get high ratings by demonizing other people and by teaching people that if someone disagrees with you, they're your enemy. And this is wrong. This erodes democracy. We need to be able to work together, agree to disagree on some issues, but talk about solutions to problems instead of just calling each other names and making money off of sowing hatred and anger. So I offer you calm, intelligent, nonpartisan problem solving from an engineer's perspective and from an educator's perspective. So today I'm going to kind of give you an overview of my positions on quite a few different issues. Some of these issues I'm going to devote an entire show to over the next 12 months. In fact, our first episode was last month. This is our second episode. But I want to give you an idea of where I come from politically. I believe that government should help people help themselves. I also believe that government needs to have sustainable policies, sustainable fiscal policies, and sustainable social policies. And that means we have to pay for what we do, and we have to look to the long term about what's going to happen instead of taking a very short-term view that most of our elected officials have. I've seen over the last 20 years very little difference between when we have Democrats in control of the executive branch and the legislative branch and when we have Republicans in control of both branches. There's very little difference. And I've figured out it's because they're all career politicians. And they care more about getting reelected 2 or 4 or 6 years from now than they do about solving long-term problems that are 10 or 20 years down the road. And we're in big trouble as a result.